The Changeling is a 1980 supernatural horror film directed by Peter Medak. I think I'm saying that right. The story itself was written by Russell Hunter. It stars George C. Scott, Van Devere, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Melvin Douglas, among others. Martin Scorsese actually listed it as one of the scariest horror films he has ever seen. Is it deserving of such praise? Let's find out. The premise of this film concerns a man named Jack Russell, played by Scott, who moves into a new house after the tragic loss of his wife and daughter. Once he moves in, however, he discovers eerie events are taking place and becomes determined to find out the cause. Could this just be the subject of his overwhelming grief, or is something much more sinister going on? This is such a strong premise. Horror movies involving grief tend to be so because it automatically gives you characters that you can genuinely empathize with and makes you care for them so much more. And the supernatural element is explored in such a subtle way and eerie way as well, that it makes you want to know what exactly happened in that house to cause such things to happen. And the emotional aspects of the story tie into the supernatural elements very well. I give premise an A. Next is acting. I was very impressed by it. The main protagonist has a role that demands some very emotional scenes, and George C. Scott knocks it out of the park. This is a character who lost two people very close to him in an accident, and you can tell just from John Russell's facial expressions how much this is truly affecting him, especially when people bring it up. The emotion George C. Scott puts into the role felt so genuine that I almost cried, wanted to cry along with the character when he did. He didn't even need to say anything to tell me how much this loss was affecting him because his actions alone demonstrated that. I give acting an A minus. Next is special effects, and they were at a minimum for this movie, but that ultimately made it stronger. The most this movie has in terms of special effects is people appearing in mirrors, objects moving by themselves, and a boy that looks like he's inside the floor of a little girl's room. Because of how limited the effects were, that actually made the story itself feel more believable, because sometimes when a movie relies too heavily on effects, it can take you out of the story, because then you'll be able to tell how they did some stuff. Like if a movie uses CGI a lot, with the exception of Nope, which had fairly impressive CGI. Especially if the CGI is not that good, like in Cloverfield. Again, like I said, that movie would have been better if CGI was not involved, or had been kept to a minimum. I give special effects a B plus. They were pretty damn simple, but that's part of what made them more effective. Next is cinematography, and it was alright for the most part. Nothing too terrible, but nothing too good either. There were a few moments here and there where I was like, that's pretty good, but for the most part, it was just average at best. I think some of the best shots were in the house, since not only did it give you a sense of feel of how big it is, but also had some POV shots of the entity. I give cinematography a B minus. Finally, directing. This was a movie that wanted to be a tragedy piece first before it was a horror movie, and Peter Medak more than knew by having us focus on how the main character's loss was truly affecting him. So he gives you a chance to truly care about this character and makes him trying to figure out why his new house is haunted so much more believable. Because the house being haunted somewhat implies that someone had to have died for that to happen. So given that he has experienced loss himself, you can understand why he wants to explore this aspect of the house first. Also, the reveal as to why it is haunted is so chilling and tragic, and Peter Medak shows you what exactly happened, and it is very haunting. I give directing an A+. Overall, The Changeling is a really tragic and even eerie film due to its immense atmosphere and very subtle horror moments. It's probably the best 80s horror film I have seen next to Angel Heart, The Shining, and The Thing. I can definitely see why Martin likes it so much. I give The Changeling an A. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.